Welcome to another Audacy check-in, this time starring Daniel from Interpol. Hello, sir.
Hey, how are you?
We got the note, the jackets. We got jackets
I got
today.
the memo.
Yeah. I was always told one time a grown man wears a jacket, so I appreciate the jacket brotherhood that we are
I feel
forming
very
today.
naked without a jacket, I have to say. It's bizarre, but
It is very strange. It is very strange. Well, congratulations. The new album is incredible. I absolutely love it. I think Tony is really big. I mean, it feels like Interpol got big again, you know? It's all this production. What are your thoughts on it? I mean, first off, it took forever. You know, it feels like forever. 4 years. I got to imagine some of that is because of COVID, right?
I mean, first, thank you very much. It's really nice to hear. We actually average about 4 years per record. We just kind of, we tour usually for about a year and a half. Then, yes, we had the lockdowns and everything that, bigger things were happening in life and so forth. But that's just our pace. It's like year and a half. Then we usually take a break. Then I start writing, and then we kind of plot a time to get together, and then we just start piecemealing new material, and then the recording, and then, I mean, granted, we finished a record in late December, early January, so it's been a while.
You struck on something that got me. You said when you're writing, you put together whatever you're writing. What is the process for you guys? Explain the Interpol process for me.
Usually the songs begin with me just writing at home, just on the same guitar I've had since I was a teenager for the most part, just old classical guitar, and then once it's been, and then usually after taking a break from the touring cycle and so forth, and then we'll just start touching bass and seeing if we're ready to start bring on new ideas. And then I'll this time, because we were in remote locations and there was a lockdown, we had to send things around. But essentially, once I have a batch of material and we're all feeling kind of psyched to get going again, I'll play the songs for Paul and Sam in person, or I'll send them in this case, and then we'll flesh them out together and make them into Interpol material together. And then Paul obviously writes all the lyrics, and he does write all the bass parts and guitar parts and a whole bunch of stuff. So
it's fascinating because it feels like you guys are all, I don't know, when I think of a band, you guys have been around forever, right? I mean, when you guys met, what are you, 17 years old, 18 years old? You were kids, you were babies. And now you've been around each other for this long. Are you guys hanging out on just a regular basis, or is all of this is life pretty much separate for everybody?
Well, no, I mean, it's we're all friends, we all like each other, and we're still a band because we have this chemistry. It's very clear, the moment we start writing music, it's just right there, and it's not, you don't even need to converse, it's happening. And so therefore it's the most illustrated reminder as to why you're still a band. And if it wasn't there, if it was sort of kind of you had to bleed this a little bit, then we would stop or take a break or not force it. We've never had to force anything, which is very fortunate. I'm really grateful for, and I'm also just in awe that it's still there, and it has this urgency in the room when we're writing. It's sort of as, it feels like it is like record one, where you're just this is the most important thing that you could be doing at that moment. And that's the way you should feel, and it shouldn't be an effort or a job, and it's not. But then also, when you are putting out a record and you are touring, you're spending so much time together. So you're like sailors sleeping on this moving ship of a bus, going to bunk beds. Then you get off, and then you go to the hotel. Then you have sound check. Then you have interviews together, and then you have a show, and then you have the 90% of waiting that is the cliche of rock and roll. You know what I mean? So you were spending a lot of time together. We don't live in the same city at the same time, when we're not touring. So
do you miss that part?
That's just life. I mean, it's it's just those things are not the same for me in general, as they were 20 years ago. I'm sure they're not the same as they were for you 10 years ago. Do you know what I mean? So
I don't even remember 10 years ago.
Well, there you go.
No
Same
idea.
thing. So I'm just assuming that's the way it was for me. No, but I don't know. I'm less I grew up being very nostalgic because I moved around a lot as a kid, and now I'm not so nostalgic, but that's because we're still doing all these things, and I think we're really fully invested in this, and with the other side of Make Believe, the record, it's just, I think, we're just, it was just, we put everything we had into it, and when you see that going on, you're just kind of more, the present's more important to you. That's where you're at versus kind of waxing on about the past. So in that sense, I'm just grateful that I have that, we have that.
Well, I think it's hard to talk, and this would probably annoy you, but I'm used to annoying people in my life. I think it's hard to talk to Interpol or anybody from Interpol without talking about the body of work, right? I mean, it's just so impressive, and especially those first two albums were just masterpieces. Antics was damn near perfect from front to back. So it's hard to not talk about that. And I'm sure that is kind of irritating.
It's not
for
irritating
you.
at all. No. It's really just nice to hear always.
But how does that inform doing what you guys did and part of the zeitgeist that you guys were a part of, in the early aughts? How does that inform how you write today?
I mean, for one, it's always nice to hear that. I love the fact, I know like Turn on the Bright Lights occupies a special place in the hearts of our fans and so forth. And that's, it's an honor to have that. And it's like, it's amazing 20 years ago that it's just incredible. So that's like just not lost on me. And I'm not flipping on that. And so, and also you recognize it's also the part of just like rock and roll music, the first thing you hear, the early things and so forth. And then just in life in general, like the first time you go to a restaurant, maybe you have this like bite of something that's incredible. You might go back the second time. It might not occupy the same space as it did the first time. I think this is a bit of human nature. All that to say, it's more of like, that is great, totally, and I'm very happy about that. But I love all of our records. I'm really proud of all our records, and that makes me happy that like I would hate to be in a position where there was like a record where I just try to like detach myself from, or just be like, I don't know what we're doing there. Like I hated reading about that when I was a kid, when an artist would actually do that about a record that I liked. So to me, it was actually very important when we're making all of our records to feel really like, oh, this is a document of these 3 years or whatever of the writing, the recording of this. So to me, it's like, that's great that you feel that way about Antics. I love that record too. I love playing songs from that record. But it's also artistically, you should always feel, I think, and this applies to all arts, I think, the latest thing should always feel like the best thing or the most important thing. And I think for us right now, that's the way it feels. But that's not to discount anything we've done previously.
What does this album mean to you? I mean, you talk about it as if it, is, and you said it very rightly, the most important thing that's happening in your life and the most important thing that is going on for you. So what about this album is so special?
I mean, it's a good question. It's a hard question to answer. It's just, I feel like it's, one, maybe, it's too soon in the moment of actually writing and recording it, in the sense of like with the pandemic and so forth. But ultimately it was, when we realized that we would not be able to get together in the same room and write the songs together as like we have done traditionally, that we'd have to do this remotely and start sending tracks around and so forth. Once that started getting, got going, and it was actually working quite well off the bat, these results, the songs were moving forward in a way that felt very much mirroring as if we were rehearsing in the same room. Like you saw every week you saw progression of the songs, and it got very exciting. Then it became something to kind of latch onto. So while you're still kind of locked down, or movements were very limited, and then obviously there are bigger things happening in the world, this is something to kind of put all of your emotion into, and your focus, and to get like a little bit of like joy and I don't know. For me, it was really just something that made me feel like it empowered me a little bit. It's actually weirdly enough, and it's also the feeling of writing this record and seeing it progress along was it reminded me of like being like almost like a teenager. Like I remember when I was a teenager, I put on like, my headphones and walked down the street, and that whatever thing that you were into, it just became like a blanket or an armor, and you just felt, just sort of in your own world and kind of like, again, empowered. It kind of felt like that for me when I'd take these tracks for a walk and, trying to think about like the way we were moving them forward and the progression. It just kind of put everything into it. So yeah, this record, so obviously it occupies this moment in time, but then I really do think it's like, it shows that the band is like, it's continuingly like evolving. Like, I can see that Paul and Sam are getting better and better as artists and musicians. And I think we're becoming more and more experienced, as you would think. And I think this record is as good as anything we've done previously. It's
amazing that you've been doing it for so long and you can still see and hear people getting better at it. That's
for sure.
Pretty important.
I mean, it's like, Paul he's like a great artist and just one of those people that just gets better at things. It's like, he can.
That's annoying.
It's it's also it's something to admire in the sense that like he's someone who can all of a sudden start like pick up something new, and then all of a sudden he's pretty damn good at it, and but it took him like 6 months to become pretty damn good at it. But that's a testament to his mettle.
You talked about the writing process being different this time. I think about just walking around an office space and seeing how the entire place is different. I wonder if the way that you've written the last 2 years is going to change it going forward.
I mean, now, basically what we did is what I think bands of the modern age have been doing forever, which is like just sending files around. But we've just been like, no, we don't do that so often. We'd get together in the room and, kind of hash it out like old school vibes. And then the songs would have to kind of prove themselves before they're ready to go like record. And this time we had to do this because we're all in different countries and so forth. But it did show us that we can do it this way. You know what I mean? We didn't do all of it this way. We did a good portion of it when we just could not find ourselves in the same spot. And then we did have a little bit of time to, like, for instance, like Tony's actually a song that I was in Spain for like a lot of the lockdown, and I was working on it there, like the progression. But then when we finally were able to get together for the first time in March 2021, which was the first time I'd seen those guys since our last show in Peru in November 2019. We rented a house in the Catskills. We moved like the couch out of the living room, set up all of our gear there, and there was an old rickety like family piano, and I started playing that on the piano, and then Sam jumped on the kid and Paul jumped on the bass, and then the song kind of came together that way. And right there, you're like, oh yeah, this is why we're a band again. You could see it remotely, and then you could see it in the moment. It just kind of came right back together. And it's a beautiful thing, I think, about, not to be corny, but like about music, it's this weird thing, like why do humans have a reaction to it, and like what is it about it? But it's a very visceral thing.
Well, there is this interesting thing about humanity right now, and the things that we are finding to be so impactful in our lives are the things that are so basic to us, right? We love the comfort food again, and the idea of you doing this just the way that you guys did it, that's probably the reason why you feel like a teenager again, right? It almost feels like the first time you did it. I wonder if when Ben Gibbard was making the Postal Service, if any of us are like, that's the future. Yeah. Can't wait till that happens again in 2020. He
was ahead of the curve.
Yes, he was. So the thing about Interpol that I've kind of noticed is that you guys don't really ever get into politics, and that's probably by design. I wonder if some of that's changing. Do you feel a responsibility to start dabbling a little bit, considering, I don't know, the moment?
I mean, for me, I'm a very political person. I'm very informed. I feel like there is a responsibility to stay aware and to try to find a way to be, and be very vigilant in this day and age too, and make sure that it's what you used to be able to take for granted as far as the news. It's not that, right? So it takes a little work, and I think it is our responsibility to be so. I mean, outwardly as a band, we haven't taken that position. I think maybe subvert in a subverse kind of way, maybe we have in some details and so forth. I mean, lyrically, I leave that's all Paul, so I don't want to speak on his behalf, but I feel like even like the title, The Other Side of Make Believe, you could look at, we live in an era where that could be something, a statement for many different areas, right? Nothing is as it might seem. And so we haven't like taken that position or been like one side or the other side, but it's these times definitely kind of ask you to, I don't know, to perhaps do so.
Yeah, I wonder if it's a conscious effort, though, some bands make to stay completely out of it.
I think so. I mean, and obviously some bands really, that's a big part of who they are, and I'm very much admire them.
Yeah, because it's tough. It's tough to keep your mouth shut sometimes, because every time that you do, it could go one way or the other, and all of a sudden you're dialing up some trouble on one side or the other at some point. It's not going to be easy to navigate. That's for sure. So I want to go through a couple of things. I know people care about, a lot of the firsts and the things that happen for the first time. I like lasts. I like the list of lasts. So I've got a list of lasts here that I want to ask you about. All right. So, all right. Like for instance, what is the last record that you bought?
The last record that I bought, I think maybe the Aldous Harding record.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Nerding out on me. Last TV show you binged?
Ooh, probably Better Call Saul.
Yeah, well, it's back.
I know. Now it's always a cruel thing when they kind of split the seasons up like that. Yeah, but it works.
You'll get Stranger Things 5 in about 2030.
There you
go. Last time you went on an all-night bender.
Ooh.
I asked because I just did this, and I'm 40.
You went on
this is a bad idea post 40. It's a very bad idea.
What was do tell?
Well, I insinuated a couple minutes ago. James Murphy has a really nice spot in town,
right.
and into it a lot of mezcal and a very, very, very expensive tab. It's a great place, just quite pricey if you decide to stay there for 4, 5, 7 hours. So what was your last all-night bender? You got one?
It's been a minute. I gotta say, like all-night bender. It might have been a minute.
Last picture in your camera roll.
It was not a selfie. I'll tell you that much.
You don't take you as a selfie man.
No, it's probably only to see if it's like make sure I'm like not looking like a sweaty mess.
Last person you texted?
Last person was actually one of my bandmates.
Yeah, and then last concert you saw that wasn't your own.
Ooh, last concert that. Well, I don't know if this is the very last concert, but we played in Mexico City, and the band that played with us was this band Dry Cleaning.
Okay.
I'd heard some of their tracks before, but then just watched them. It's always great when you're watching a band before you play, especially in the context that it was like a one-off show, and they were just great live.
Also, great band name. Dry Cleaning.
Great, and also just like a really unique energy, and then just really like very urgent energy, and just sort of like, and then you can see the crowd getting really into it and not knowing, just the whole thing happening, and it was great to see. It just makes you really excited to go play too right afterwards, which is the best.
I don't know why this just struck me, but you guys spend a lot of time paying really close attention to music videos in an age where, at least rock stars are not paying attention to music videos anymore. Beyonce cares about music videos. You guys spend so much time and effort into that. Why? And I'm sure there's a reason.
Well, for one, we're all big film fans, so I feel like, for me, I write this is a little bit separate from music videos, but since the beginning, I've always, I write while watching films. I can't just sit there and just write. It's too much of pressure of this must happen now. I need a little bit of distraction as well as visual stimulation. So to me, film is my biggest influence in general, more than music, I would say. But I think for us, we're all big film fans. And then with the Tony and Something Changed, I think the idea of doing a part 1 film and a part 2 film, and then the concept, Van Alpert had a great, idea with the dancing themes and so forth, and the subcontext. And I think we were just really into that. So I think it's, at the same time, we're in an age where it's, in some ways, it's a good age for music videos, because it's just an evolving age from when I was a kid, maybe, and then but then in some ways it's I don't know, it's still evolving in some ways. We
might be the same age. I just missed them. I think that's the reason I missed them. I hate to be corny about it, but Carson Daly turning me on to the Korn music video is still the moment that I'm like, wow, this is something that could be done. It's a lost art, and I wish that more bands took it more seriously, because I'm really tired of watching music videos where it's just the band playing in front of shiplap. It's just the same music video every time. This has been great. I'm really excited about the album. And by the way, the Tony video is fantastic. And
thank you.
He's a damn good actor.
He's great,
right?
He's
a damn good actor. Yes,
he's really good. I was really, really impressed, and I'm encouraging him to do more for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. He's the star of the show when it comes to the. Why are you in it? Why are you doing a thing? Feel like a cop.
He's great, and he's great, cop. And I think I'm probably the guy hiding behind the corner or something. Too shy.
This has been great. Congratulations on the album. It's so fun, and it feels like you guys are so right back into the pocket. Maybe you never left, but sometimes when a band's out of the consciousness for a minute, you're like, oh my God, they still got it. They still got it. It's Daniel from Interpol. Thank you again for joining us for another Audacy check-in. Daniel from Interpol.
Thank you.